chosen one. Your ex just woke up, realizing you are not ordinary and that they crossed a spiritual line with you. Your ex awakened inwardly, not by noise but by truth. Their eyes opened. You are not ordinary. You were refined through contrast. When they were with you, they had something most people spend their entire lives searching for. You weren't ordinary, never have been. Your presence in their life wasn't random. It was assigned, divinely orchestrated. You were placed there as a covering, a blessing, a catalyst for their elevation. But their spiritual blindness prevented them from recognizing this. They looked at you and saw someone they could control, someone they could manipulate, someone whose light they could dim to make themselves feel brighter. What they didn't realize is that your light doesn't dim. It just relocates to people who deserve it, and when it left them, everything else left too. See, you were doing more than loving them. You were holding back consequences they deserved. Your prayers kept disasters away from their door. Your energy brought structure to their chaos. Your presence opened opportunities they thought they earned on their own, but they didn't earn anything. They were riding on borrowed favor. Your favor, and the moment they betrayed you, the moment they chose to disrespect something sacred, they severed their connection to the source. Now they're free-falling, and they can feel it. That job that felt secure, suddenly unstable, those friends who hyped them up, suddenly missing, that new person who seemed perfect, suddenly showing their true colors. Everything is crumbling, and somewhere deep in their spirit, they know why. They didn't just stumble into betraying you. They were recruited. They aligned themselves with people who wanted to see you destroyed. Gossipers, energy vampires, spiritual thieves who couldn't touch you directly, so they used someone with access. Your ex became a Trojan horse. Whether they knew it consciously or not, they allowed themselves to be used as a weapon against you. They sat at tables where your name was torn apart. They laughed with people who envied everything you represented. They fed information about your vulnerabilities to wolves dressed as friends. This wasn't a breakup. This was an ambush, and you felt it. You saw the signs, the shift in their energy, the coldness in their eyes, but you stayed because you thought love could heal them. You weren't staying because you were weak. You were staying because you were on assignment. The universe needed you there long enough to expose what was hidden, to reveal who they really were beneath the mask, to document the betrayal so that when the time came for your elevation, you'd never be tempted to go back. Every lie they told was being recorded. Every moment they chose others over you was being catalogued. Every time they made you question your worth, heaven was taking notes. Not to punish them eventually, but to promote you permanently. You had to see the fullness of their character before you could fully step into yours, and now that you have, there's no going back, only forward. Now let's talk about what happened after they discarded you. They thought they won. They celebrated, posting pictures with new people, living their best life, making sure you saw them moving on effortlessly. But it was all performance, all smoke and mirrors, because beneath the surface, things were already shifting. That new person wasn't giving them peace. Those new friends weren't adding real value. That new life wasn't feeling as good as it looked. But they couldn't admit it yet. Their ego was too loud. Their pride was too strong. So they doubled down. They started talking about you publicly. They painted you as the problem. They claimed the victim role. They told anyone who would listen that leaving you was the best decision they ever made. But every word they spoke against you became a curse they spoke over themselves. Because you can't lie on someone chosen without those lies turning into chains around your own neck. They were building their own prison with every false accusation, and the people listening weren't as convinced as they pretended to be. Questions were forming, doubts were rising, because the story didn't match the evidence. You were peaceful, they were chaotic. You were growing, they were spiraling. You were glowing, they were fading. The truth was writing itself in real time, and no amount of narrative control could rewrite what everyone was witnessing with their own eyes. While they were busy trying to bury you, you were being buried in the biblical sense, like a seed, going into dark soil, dying to old versions, breaking open, germinating, preparing to emerge as something they could never imagine. Those nights you cried yourself to sleep, that was your old identity washing away. Those days you questioned if you'd ever feel whole again, that was false beliefs being uprooted. Those moments you felt completely alone, that was divine isolation preparing you for divine elevation. You weren't being punished, you were being prepared, and there's a massive difference. They thought your tears meant they broke you. They saw your pain and mistook it for defeat. But you were never breaking down, you were breaking through. Every tear was watering seeds of your next season. Every painful moment was strengthening roots they'll never see, but you'll feel forever. You were in labor, birthing a version of yourself that would never accept crumbs again, never shrink for anyone's comfort, never apologize for your standards, never dim your light to make small people feel big. They were witnessing your becoming and calling it your breakdown. They just weren't spiritually intelligent enough to know the difference. And this is the part where everything accelerates. Time passed, you started healing, really healing, not performing, not pretending, actually doing the work. Therapy, meditation, prayer, journaling, setting boundaries, cutting off access, rebuilding your foundation, reconnecting with your purpose, and something supernatural started happening. Opportunities that were blocked suddenly opened. People who were meant for you suddenly appeared. Resources you needed suddenly materialized. Your entire life started rearranging itself to match the frequency you were now operating on. You weren't chasing anymore, you were attracting, and what you were attracting was making their downgrade obvious to everyone watching. Meanwhile, their life was doing the opposite. That job they bragged about, gone or unbearable, that new relationship, toxic and draining, those friends they chose over you, showing their true colors. Everything they built on lies was collapsing under the weight of truth, and they couldn't understand why. They tried everything. New city, new job, new people, new routines, but nothing worked because the problem wasn't external, it was spiritual. They were living under the consequences of violating something sacred, and no amount of running could outpace what was chasing them. Not demons, not you, but their own choices coming back for payment. If you felt called by this message, hype this video so other chosen ones like you can be reached. Now let's get to the moment. Everything crystallized for them. It probably happened on some random day. They were scrolling social media and saw you, not trying to see you, but the algorithm knew, the universe knew, and there you were, glowing in a way that didn't make sense, smiling in a way that looked free, living in a way that showed zero signs of their impact, and something cracked inside them, because in that moment they realized multiple things simultaneously. First, you weren't broken, you were rebuilt. Second, they didn't damage you, they freed you. Third, and this is the one that's eating them alive, you were the best thing that ever happened to them, and they'll never get that chance again. That realization hit different, not like nostalgia, not like missing someone, like grief, like mourning something dead that was once alive. They started scrolling through old pictures, reading old messages, listening to songs that reminded them of you, and each memory was a knife twisting deeper because they could see it now. How present you were, how loyal you were, how real you were. Everything they claimed they wanted but rejected when it was standing right in front of them. They started comparing the way you loved versus the way others love, the way you showed up versus the way others show up, the way you supported versus the way others support, and nothing compared. Everything after you was a downgrade, and they know it. They started reaching out, not directly at first, testing the waters, watching your stories, liking old posts, sending messages to mutual friends, asking about you, hoping someone would tell you they asked, hoping you'd reach out, hoping for a door to crack open so they could squeeze through. But you already knew this was coming. You felt it in your spirit before they made any move. Because when you level up spiritually, you can sense energy shifts before they manifest physically, and you made a decision, a powerful decision. You weren't going backwards for anyone. Not out of bitterness, out of wisdom, because here's what you understood that they still don't. Going back would be an insult to who you've become. You didn't survive everything you survived to go back to what broke you. You didn't heal every wound just to reopen them for someone who handed you the knife. You didn't build these new boundaries to let the same person who violated your old ones come back and test them. You weren't being cold, you were being committed. Committed to your healing, committed to your standards, committed to the version of you that refused to shrink anymore. And that commitment made you untouchable, not in a lonely way, in a powerful way, in a way that attracted everything meant for you and repelled everything that wasn't. So when they finally got bold enough to reach out directly, you already had your answer prepared, not a paragraph explaining why you couldn't go back, not an emotional speech about what they did wrong, just a simple boundary, a clean no, or maybe no response at all. Because silence is a complete sentence when you're speaking to people who refuse to hear you, and that boundary, that clean cut, that refusal to give them access, did something to them that anger never could. It showed them you were serious, that this wasn't a game, that you weren't holding the door open hoping they'd change their mind. You had closed the door, locked it, and built a completely different house they'd never get the address to. I must interrupt this transmission for just a moment. Are you really chosen? Prove it. It's easy to watch videos about chosen ones. It's another thing to put yourself to the test. If you're still here, that means something, but talk is cheap. Real chosen ones take action. That's why I built Destiny Engine. It generates personalized sequences that help you rewire betrayal into transcendence, turn isolation into sacred power, and transform their downfall into your rise. We are using the Dark Elite's own weapons against them, taking their declassified consciousness technology that programmed competition and scarcity and repurposing it to serve divine justice. Pop the headphones, press play and watch your enemies choke on the rope their own lies created. If you're done consuming and ready to prove you're chosen, start your Destiny Engine for $1 today. Join the Obsidian Inner Order live checks and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. And this is where the story reaches its peak, where everything lost becomes undeniable, where the spiritual crime reveals its full consequences. Missing you isn't the only thing happening. Life is being lived without the covering you provided, without the prayers you prayed, without the protection your presence brought, and life is hitting with everything you were blocking: failed relationships, financial struggles, health issues, mental breakdowns, spiritual warfare without tools to fight. Everything is falling apart, not because you cursed anyone, but because removal from your blessing was self-inflicted, and blessings don't chase people who reject them. Movement happens to people who recognize them. While collapse is happening elsewhere, your life is expanding. Everything you were told you couldn't do without someone, you're doing it better. Everything you were told you'd never be, you're becoming it effortlessly. Every dream that was called unrealistic, you're living it unapologetically. You're not just surviving without anyone. You're thriving in ways you couldn't have if anyone stayed, because that presence was the lid on your potential. That toxicity was the weight holding you underwater. That betrayal was the knife that cut you free from chains you didn't even know you were wearing. Attempts to destroy you accidentally liberated you, and that liberation is the real revenge. See, this is what can't be accepted. The expectation was to be the best thing that happened to you. In someone's mind, you were supposed to spend forever trying to get them back, begging for another chance, proving you changed, but you did the opposite. You let go with grace, healed yourself with discipline, upgraded your life with intention, and moved forward with a level of peace that makes it clear you're not looking back. That kind of indifference after deep love communicates something powerful. It says you weren't that special. It says what we had wasn't that rare. It says I found something better, and it's me. And that's what's keeping someone up at night. Not that you hate them, but that you outgrew them. Not that you're angry, but that you're indifferent. Not that you want revenge, but that you don't want anything at all. Because hate is still connection. Anger is still attachment. But indifference Indifference is complete detachment. It's the ultimate power move. It says you no longer occupy space in my heart or my mind. You're just someone I used to know, a chapter I've closed, a lesson I've learned. And that kind of closure from the person who was thought to be destroyed, that's the real spiritual crime, the one committed against the self. You're being seen differently in dreams, not the person remembered, not the person thought to be left behind. You're being seen elevated, glowing, surrounded by people who genuinely celebrate you. And waking up from those dreams happens with chest tightness, because those aren't just dreams, those are spiritual downloads showing what's really happening in your life. The universe is making sure exact viewing happens of what's being missed, not to torture, but to teach, because some lessons only land when contrast can be seen between what was had and what was settled for. The person who committed them isn't the only one affected. Everyone connected to that person gets affected. New relationships feel cursed, friendships feel shallow, family members start asking questions about why you were let go, because your energy was covering more than just one person. It was covering an entire circle. You were the rising tide that lifted all boats, and when you pulled your energy back, everyone felt the water level drop. That's why people who barely knew you keep bringing you up. Absence of something can be felt that was never known to be there. That's the power of a chosen one. You don't just impact one person, you shift entire ecosystems. When someone with a divine assignment gets attached to you, that attachment isn't random. The universe put you in a path for a reason. Maybe to heal something, maybe to redirect from destruction, maybe to prepare for the next level. Whatever the reason, divine purpose existed for your presence, and when that purpose got violated, when betrayal happened of the very person sent to elevate, you weren't the only one hurt. A divine assignment was rejected. The universe was essentially told no, and the universe doesn't forget when gifts get rejected. It doesn't send them again. Movement happens to someone who will appreciate them. So now a cycle exists of attracting people who reflect character back, users attracting users, manipulators attracting manipulators, liars attracting liars, because that's what happens when rejection occurs of the person who was sent to break the cycle. Getting locked back into the pattern happens, and it's being noticed now. Every person after you has the same energy, the same toxicity, the same inability to show up the way you did. And thinking keeps happening that bad luck exists in love, but luck has nothing to do with it. This is spiritual consequence playing out in real time. Receiving is happening of exactly what was given, no more, no less, just pure reflection. When you were hurt, an explosion was expected. Expectation existed for phone blowing up, showing up at places, posting online, making scenes in public. Readiness existed for that. Responses were prepared. But you did something that was never seen coming. You went silent, completely silent. Completely silence is loud as thunder in the spirit, because silence from someone who loved deeply means one thing. You're done. Not angry, not hurt, not waiting, done. And being done is irreversible in a way that anger never is. Your silence is forcing blank filling to happen personally. And human nature always fills blanks with worst possible scenarios. So in the mind, you're out here living your best life, completely over them, happy without them, thriving in ways that make absence irrelevant. And even if that wasn't true in the beginning, your silence made such vivid imagination happen that it became reality. Now competition exists with a version of you that exists in the head, a version that's completely moved on, a version that doesn't think about anyone at all, a version that's so happy it can't even be comprehended. And that version can't be beaten because that version isn't even paying attention to the competition. The crime isn't just what was done to you, it's what was done to the self. Every time betrayal of you happened, a piece of personal soul got betrayed. Every time lies were told to you, lies were told to personal spirit. Every time chaos was chosen over your peace, choosing to disconnect from personal alignment happened. So the punishment being experienced isn't coming from an angry God or vengeful universe, it's coming from personal disconnection from source. Personal connection got severed when connection to you got severed. And now wandering in spiritual darkness is happening, trying to find way back to a light that was voluntarily walked away from. You were never meant to be a final destination. You were meant to be a catalyst. The person who showed what real love looks like, so recognition could happen in the self. The person who demonstrated what integrity looks like, so personal development could occur. The person who modeled what emotional intelligence looks like, so personal growth could happen. But the assignment got misunderstood. The thought existed that you were there to complete, when really you were there to reveal what was needed for self-completion. And because the work didn't get done, because the shortcut was taken, because replacement attempts happened instead of becoming worthy of you, being stuck occurred. Every prayer you prayed is being answered, just not the way desire exists. You prayed for eyes to open, opening is happening. You prayed for truth to be seen, seeing is occurring. You prayed for understanding of what was lost, understanding is developing. But these answered prayers feel like curses because the full weight of realization comes with them. Everything you prayed for is being received, but receiving is happening too late to do anything about it. That's the tragedy of spiritual crimes. Awareness comes after opportunity is gone. Tum plandum Betty, every person dated after you becomes a mirror showing what you weren't. This one has beauty, but lacks your depth. That one has fun but lacks your wisdom. This one has availability but lacks your standards. That one has interest but lacks your authenticity. Searching keeps happening for your qualities in separate people, not realizing that what made you special was how all those qualities existed in one being. You weren't just one thing, you were everything needed wrapped in one person. And learning is happening that you can't Frankenstein together a bunch of different people and recreate what one chosen one naturally possessed. Here's what's happening with energy right now. It's fragmented, scattered, leaking everywhere. Because when you were present, your presence was the container that held energy together. You were the grounding force, the stabilizing element, the anchor. And now without that, being all over the place is happening. Starting things occurs that can't be finished. Making commitments happens that can't be kept. Chasing opportunities occurs that lead nowhere. Because energetic coherence doesn't exist to manifest anything real. And feeling is happening, of being pulled in every direction except forward. That's what happens when you remove yourself from someone who was using your energy to function. Ability gets lost to focus, to create, to build, to sustain. Looking different is happening now. Aged, tired, drained, because spiritual debt shows up in physical form. You can see it in the eyes. The light is gone. The spark is missing. The look exists of carrying weight that's crushing from the inside. And it is the weight of regret, the weight of what could have been, the weight of knowing everything was had and thrown away for nothing. That weight is visible, and people are noticing, commenting on it, asking if okayness exists, and explanation can't happen without self-exposure. So lying happens, and fineness gets claimed while visible falling apart occurs. Meanwhile, you're doing the opposite. You're glowing in ways that defy logic. People are asking what you're doing differently. What's your secret? How are you so radiant? And you know the secret. The secret is that removing toxic people from your life is the best skincare routine, the best diet plan, the best mental health treatment, the best spiritual practice. Absence created space for your presence to expand, and that expansion is visible to everyone with eyes to see. You're not just surviving, you're flourishing. And that flourishing is the physical evidence of spiritual alignment. Signs of you are being seen everywhere. Songs that remind, places that were gone to together, people who looked like you from behind, random memories popping up at the worst times, and thinking happens that it's coincidence, but it's not. The universe is intentionally keeping you in awareness. not to give hope, but to make sure forgetting never happens of what was lost, because some lessons need constant reinforcement, and your presence in consciousness, even in your absence from life, is the reinforcement, the reminder, the eternal reference point for what's never getting back. Your story is where the power is. You've discovered something in absence that could never have been discovered in presence. Your sufficiency. You are enough, all by yourself. You don't need another person to complete you, to validate you, to make you whole. You were always whole. You were always enough. You were always complete. Temporary forgetting happened, and now that you remember, now that you've experienced your own wholeness, you can never unsee it. You can never go back to believing you need someone else to be okay, because you've proven to yourself that you're more than okay alone. You're exceptional. Everything done to hurt you became the very thing that healed you. Every betrayal built your discernment. Every lie strengthened your intuition. Every abandonment deepened your self-reliance. Every tear watered seeds of wisdom. Every painful moment was a lesson you needed to become who you're becoming. So in a weird way, the biggest favor of your life was done. Not because intention existed for it, but because the universe used evil for your good, turned the weapon into your tool, transformed the curse into your blessing. So when final realization happens of what was lost, when the full weight of spiritual crime crashes down, when you're seen living unbothered and elevated, understanding will happen of something devastating. Main character of your story wasn't the role. The villain was the role, whose purpose was to push you into your destiny. The obstacle that forced discovery of your strength, the betrayal that revealed your resilience, the abandonment that uncovered your independence. Your ending was thought to be written when your beginning was actually being written, and that's the most poetic justice of all. You developed spiritual maturity, not the kind that comes from reading books or attending seminars, the kind that comes from being tested by fire and choosing to rise instead of becoming bitter. You learn to hold space for your own pain without projecting it onto others. You learn to process betrayal without becoming a betrayer. You learn to experience abandonment without abandoning yourself. That's the kind of maturity that can't be taught. It has to be earned through suffering and choosing wisdom over revenge. This spiritual maturity is why you're not bitter, why you're not posting subliminals, why you're not trying to make them jealous. You don't need to, because you've transcended that level of consciousness. You understand now that your peace is worth more than their regret, that your healing is more valuable than their apology, that your freedom is more precious than their validation. You've reached a place where their opinion of you is no longer your business, where their perception of what happened no longer shapes your reality. You've taken back your power by refusing to let them rent space in your mind anymore. Welcome to your resurrection, chosen one. The crime has been committed, the sentence has been served, and you've been acquitted, elevated, and crowned all at once. Now walk in that truth, own that power, live that freedom, because you earned every bit of it, and no one can take it away from you now. You're free, and freedom on a chosen one looks like the divine walking among mortals. That's who you are. That's who you've always been. Some couldn't handle it, but the right people will, and until they arrive, you're more than enough for yourself, and that's the biggest flex of all.